Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about my cancer experience with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I am going to put a warning at the start of this video to let you guys assess whether you want to watch this or not. It's possibly going to be graphic. I'm going to be extremely honest. It could be triggering for some people and scary, I guess. I mean, cancer is a scary topic, but I almost want to break the taboo around the cancer word because it's something that affects everyone. Everyone knows someone, everyone has been affected by some kind of cancer or will be affected by some kind of cancer in their lives, whether it's them, their brother, their sister, their mother, their husband, their wife, their children, their best friend. Anyone is susceptible to cancer, and it's scary. Just wanted to be able to give you a fair warning to click out of this video if you didn't want to watch that, and you know, go watch some of my other videos on my channel that aren't about cancer. Okay, so first off, how did I get diagnosed and what was the process? I was noticeably unwell in May of 2016. Sorry, I've got my laptop down there, which is why I keep looking at it with lots of notes on it. I thought it was a throat infection or possibly glandular fever. We went to the GP maybe 5 or 6 times. We got antibiotics, had, you know, blood tests, blah 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 blah, all those like the natural steps you take before you jump to a cancer diagnosis. So I took a course of antibiotics, nothing got better, but in the meantime of taking those antibiotics, I went to my physio because I had pain on the right side of my neck. I thought I was sleeping weird, which I probably was, so I, you know, went to him. He was extremely helpful. He gave me exercises to stretch out this side of my neck. And one day he was comparing the muscles in my neck and felt a inflamed lymph node on my left collarbone. He said it's probably nothing, but maybe get it checked by your doctor if you're concerned about it. After that, I went back to my doctor. I had developed a few more symptoms. I was sleeping 14 hours a day. Not in one shot. I would have to take naps. I wouldn't be able to make it wake up at 9. I would have to take a nap at 3 to 5 I'd be napping, 9 o'clock I'd be going back to sleep. It was so odd for me. I also had a really deep itching. It was kind of like inside of my feet, so you can't even get to it, and it was incessantly annoying. Obviously when I went back to my doctor, I also had my inflamed lymph node. When the physio first noticed it was on the 1st of July. I went back to my doctor maybe on the 12th, 14th of July. It was the size of maybe a cricket ball. So it had seriously inflamed, which was causing a very persistent cough because it was actually impinging on my airway. I had an overall unexplained exhaustion. Like I was sleeping excessive amounts, but I was still so physically tired, and I had also developed night sweats. I'm not a sweaty person. I live in Australia, I live in Melbourne. It gets really hot here sometimes. Like we have runs of 40-degree heat days and it gets hot, and I don't tend to sweat. So having night sweats, and when I say night sweats I mean I was drenched when I woke up. So all of those combined, when I went back to my doctor after the antibiotics had failed, after the lymph node had swollen even more, I had an ultrasound, I had 2 CT scans with contrast dye, which is an interesting time. I had several blood tests, and on the 18th of July I went back to my doctor to get all those results, and he had booked an appointment with an oncologist for me. So that was pretty intimidating news to hear, that I had a doctor's appointment with a cancer doctor that specialised in Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was just something I had to go to. My parents came along, they were incredibly supportive all the way through. Mum, being a nurse, she noticed something was up quite early on and was pushing for CT scans, for different types of tests, so we could get onto this as early as possible. So, saw the oncologist, lovely man. He sent me for a tissue biopsy, he sent me for a bone marrow biopsy, and I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma on the 21st of July 2016. At that point I felt quite uncomfortable. I've always been quite in tune with my body, and I knew something was up. I didn't expect it to be cancer, but it was, and I kind of didn't really have a choice in treatment options. I was pretty stressed. I was pretty angry with everything, to be honest. I was kind of thinking, I'm in year 12, I've already had a whole catalogue of health issues my whole life. Why is this happening again? Why is this happening to me? There were a lot of emotions. The emotions were not just exclusive to me. They were, it was a hard time for my family, obviously. Like, my parents had a child with cancer. That's never fun. It's not something that you put in your life plan. My brother was overseas for 9 weeks and he had pretty much just left. So I had started treatment and by the time he got back, I was losing my hair. Get into that later, but it was quite distressing for him as well. He was on the other side of the planet and just having to have everything relayed to him by phone. I was lucky enough to have my brother's partner living with us at the time, and he still is, which is lovely. But he took me to my CT scans and sat with me and took some really intimidating, scary news from the doctor with me. You know, the support is just overwhelming, and you will learn who your real friends are. That sounds so tacky, but the people that stick around are worth their weight in gold and more. You have family and friends, and you expect to grow old with some of them. You know that you'll lose some of them along the way. You'll just lose touch, or, this being 19 when I was diagnosed, I didn't expect to learn that so quickly. And I did learn that some people can't handle a cancer diagnosis in their friends. I lost a really close friend of mine pretty much when I got diagnosed. The last time I heard from her properly and in a nice tone was the first day of chemo for me, and that was it. And she just kind of evaporated from my life. And I know cancer is scary. I believe me, I know that. But please don't do that to your friends. If they tell you that they're chronically ill, if they've got a scary illness, don't run away from them. They're already isolated enough within themselves with that information. Don't run away from them. Don't make it worse. That was a really hard thing to emotionally process while I was in a life or death situation, which luckily I wasn't in a life or death situation, because Hodgkin's lymphoma is incredibly treatable now in this day and age, which is fantastic, but it's still something that makes you think about your mortality and who you want in your life forever and who you want to have experiences with and memories. And I had a person that I thought was going to be there flake out. It's genuinely the last thing a cancer patient needs, is something that devastating. Alright, treatment. So I had a course of chemo. I had 4 months of chemo, which was 8 rounds and what they would call 4 cycles. So a cycle is 2 doses of chemo, and that was every 2 weeks. The chemo cocktail that I was on is commonly known as ABVD. Those are the first letters of the drugs. There's 4 chemo drugs. They're all put through a drip IV, and it's a pretty standard course of treatment for a person diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. By the way, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 2B, which is just a grading, and I guess how they decide what type of or how long your treatment course is, what interventions you need, all that stuff that the doctors need to know, but it's not really relevant to you. So yeah, I was deemed neutropenic by my 2nd round of chemo, so that was the first cycle. Or when you are neutropenic, it means that you have a very low count of white blood cells, which is what fights infections. So you have to be vigilant with your hygiene, your temperature taking, where you got like a little ear thermometer. Every hour I was taking my temperature, making sure it was the same in both ears as well. That's all important. So I was deemed neutropenic after my first cycle. So I then was put on a injection called Neulasta. Neulasta basically just boosts your white blood cells, helps fight infections for you. Between chemo 2 and 3, I had a port put in. I will try and insert photos. After chemo 3, I also shaved my head. My hair was falling out in chunks. I could run my hands through my hair and come out with literal chunks of hair, which is quite distressing. I've always been one to kind of change up my hair quite frequently, so it wasn't too traumatic for me, where it is very traumatic for a lot of people. I was quite lucky that I have always been one to want to do something different with my hair all the time. So shaving my head was just kind of an experiment that I was being forced to do and trying out that look, I guess. After chemo 3, I just shaved my head. At that point, I didn't look like a cancer patient. I didn't have the dexamethasone puff that you get because they pump so much of that steroid into you to make you not nauseous and, you know, help with lots of other things. So I didn't look like a cancer patient. I had all my eyebrows, I had all my eyelashes, my skin was still quite good. As chemo goes on, your skin deteriorates. It pretty much became transparent for me. I lost my eyebrows up to here. So I had this part, but anything past the maybe first third of my eyebrows just fucked off all the way. I was quite lucky that I kept most of my eyelashes, which wouldn't have bothered me too much because I like makeup and I can fill in my eyebrows, I can put false lashes on and feel like a normal human being. But when no makeup is on, when everything's gone, when you're bald, it's quite confronting watching your physicality change. You think you know yourself extremely well, especially by adulthood. Everything has kind of settled down after puberty. You've grown, you've hit your height limit, you're generally on a plateau of where you're going to sit for a while, and I had my body changing all over again. So it was quite interesting. I tried to look at it as an education into what happens to a cancer patient while I was the cancer patient. So I bought a wig because I'm extremely lucky to have savvy parents that have a fantastic health insurance policy, which covered quite a lot of the cost of the wig. Wigs are so expensive. It's genuinely disgusting. I understand that they take ages to make and it's, you know, threading hairs, but they are so damn expensive and not everybody can afford them. So what I was also lucky enough to access was Cancer Council Wig Bank or Wig Library. So any patient undergoing chemotherapy can access that library and choose a free wig and go home with it and have a sense of normality when you go out in the street. Between chemo 5 and 6 out of 8, I had my appendix out because I just thought, you know, chemotherapy wasn't enough and I just wanted a little bit more excitement in my life. Yeah, so that's not something that generally is very common. My body had just given up kind of and went, hey, we don't need that part anymore, let's get rid of it. So it didn't actually burst, but it was extremely angry and causing me quite a lot of pain. So into the hospital I went. I had a fever, I was sweating, I had lots of symptoms, I was nauseous, blah blah blah. So they whipped that out. That knocked me out for around a week, but it didn't throw off my chemotherapy schedule. That was probably the silver lining. I was still on time to finish chemo, and all that was lovely. Chemotherapy symptoms. So I experienced quite bad neuropathy or peripheral neuropathy, which is basically nerve damage or dying nerves in your extremities. So I had it very mildly in my hands. It was enough to be painful, but nothing exceeded pain level of maybe 4 in my hands. My feet were so painful from about 4 to 8 and are still to this day. It's April. I finished chemo in November 2016. So neuropathy is an extremely long-lasting symptom or side effect of chemotherapy. When it started, it was like constant pins and needles, quite uncomfortable to walk on, shooting pains up my toes into my legs, and then my feet just kind of went numb and it worked all the way up to the back of my knees. Since I stopped chemo, it's slowly worked its way back down my legs, and now my feet are just numb, and occasionally I get a shooting pain here or there, but I'm able to get on with my life and go to the gym and do active things without really thinking about it anymore. But for a good 3-4 months, it was all I thought about when I walked, when I had to get up. It was just incredibly painful, and that's one of the side effects, that there's absolutely nothing they can really do about it, so you just kind of have to deal with it and kind of say, at least I'm not dead. I had serious memory capacity issues, concentration issues, fatigue. Oh my god, so all of those issues coupled with the neuropathy in my hands made school very hard. I obviously got like a medical grade pass, so I didn't have to attend school every day, but I still did the work. I still put my all into it because I knew that after cancer had finished and left my life forever, hopefully, I'm 19, 20, I want to have a life after this. I want to have a career, I want to have a long career that I love, and my education was a massive part of that, so I was putting everything I could into that. And yeah, so I did all my SACs. I didn't sit my exams in the end. Up until the day of pretty much the exams, I was intent on sitting them, and it was just too much. So if in Victoria, if you're doing a VCE certificate, you can go to your doctor if you have extreme circumstances and say, this is not something I am capable of right now, please assess me and write me a letter. That's pretty much what I did for my exams. I did 2 subjects in 2016. I did PE and further math. Further maths has 2 exams, so I had to go to my doctor 3 times on 3 separate days and get those notes written. A lot of the notes in the assessment was about my fatigue, my memory, my concentration, how that was all heavily affected by chemo. People call it chemo brain. You literally can't form sentences sometimes because it's just too much to deal with in your brain. It kind of just turns off for a few months. And that can last a while as well. Sometimes I still find myself going, oh God, have I told this story before? Where's my phone? And I'll find it in the fridge. You know, like those kind of things still happen a few months on, but it's getting better. I put on a lot of weight with just the steroid weight, and I also, because of the nausea, I suffered from nausea quite a lot. That was probably my main side effect other than neuropathy. But because I was suffering from nausea, I wouldn't eat for a long period of time, like several hours, like 8+ hours. And when I felt well enough, I would have food because I didn't know when I could have food again and when the nausea would set back in, and I would be starting from square one again. So I didn't eat more, I didn't eat differently, but I was also extremely sedentary. I pretty much didn't do anything for 4 months straight, which took a toll on my body. I was getting puffed in the shower, standing in a hot room for 5 minutes. So I finished chemotherapy on the 3rd of November 2016. That was 8 sessions, 4 cycles done, out of the way, smashed them out of the ballpark, as they say. Did not, it was a struggle. In retrospect, you can look back on it and say, yep, that was a pretty brave thing to do. I didn't really have a choice, but I did it. But yeah, so after chemo, I had radiotherapy to do. I had 15 sessions of radiotherapy. On my last chemo, I was deemed in remission, but my doctor still wanted to do the radiotherapy, or just to do his very best to rid me of cancer for as long as he possibly can. Nobody can ever say you'll never have cancer again, but they can do their absolute best, and technology these days is friggin' amazing. If you just think about how far we've come in the last few years with cancer treatment and progress and research, it's magic is what it is. So yeah, I had 15 sessions of radiotherapy. I was bolted to the table with a mask that went across my shoulders over my head, because they need to make sure that they're zapping the same spot at the same time every time. The sessions usually lasted for about 5 to 7 minutes, which meant I was bolted to the table for about 10 to 12 minutes every day for 3 weeks. That was quite a daunting aspect of the radiotherapy, whereas everything else with the radiotherapy was a walk in the park compared to chemo. I had very minor burning on my neck and chest. I had slight heartburn because they were scanning my mediastinal masses. I had 3 planning scans before the 15 sessions, and the planning scans are literally just making sure that they're zapping the right bits that they need to and not hitting major vessels or heart muscle or any tissue that they shouldn't be hitting. I had 3 because they kind of tried different things, but because they wanted to get as little breast tissue in the zapping zone as possible. And at the end of it, there's a bell that I got to ring to signify that there was end of my treatment, which was pretty special. I think I have footage, so I'll probably insert that here. And yeah, that was my treatment over. I finished on the 21st of December, just before Christmas. So best Christmas present I think I've ever gotten. So yeah, I hope this helped somebody. I hope this wasn't me just rambling on for probably, I don't know, half an hour. If there are any more questions that you have, please put them in the comments down below. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to my friends and family that have supported me in my whole life, but specifically in the last year or so. It's been a roller coaster for everyone, and I so deeply appreciate the love and support from you guys, and and I'm so grateful because not everybody has that, but I am incredibly lucky too. I hope this helps somebody if you're experiencing Hodgkin's lymphoma, or if your friend is, or you know someone, or if you've just been diagnosed. I'm always here if you need to vent in the comments. Don't you worry, I will vent right back with you. Otherwise, I hope you're all well, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.